The snow fell so thick that Jennifer Lambert could no longer see the mountain trail ahead, and she knew with chilling certainty that if she did not find shelter within the hour, she would freeze to death in these unforgiving Wyoming mountains. It was December 1881, and she had been riding for 3 days straight, fleeing from a life that had crumbled beneath her feet like rotted floorboards. Her horse stumbled again, nearly throwing her from the saddle, and Jennifer gripped the reins tighter with frozen fingers that could barely feel the leather anymore. She had left Cheyenne with little more than the clothes on her back, some money sewn into the lining of her coat, and a desperate need to disappear. Her father's gambling debts had piled so high that the men he owed had started looking at Jennifer like she was payment enough. When her father died of a heart attack 2 weeks ago, those men had come to her boarding house with proposals that made her stomach turn. Marriage to a man 3 times her age who smelled of whiskey and violence, or worse. She had chosen the mountains instead, heading south with some half-formed plan to reach New Mexico, where she had a distant cousin. But the blizzard had come out of nowhere, turning the world into a whiteout hell that swallowed landmarks and trails alike. Jennifer's teeth chattered so hard she bit her tongue, tasting copper. Her mare, a faithful chestnut named Rosie, whinnied in distress as the wind howled around them like a living thing. The cold had worked its way past Jennifer's wool coat, past her layers of petticoats and cotton dress, straight into her bones. Her 22 years of life seemed destined to end in this frozen wilderness, and the injustice of it made her want to weep, except that her tears would only freeze on her cheeks. Through the curtain of snow, she glimpsed something darker than white. A structure. Jennifer urged Rosie forward, her heart hammering with hope that felt almost painful. The shape solidified into a fence line, then buildings, then the clear outline of a ranch spread across the white landscape like salvation. Smoke rose from a chimney, gray against the white sky, and Jennifer felt a sob of relief catch in her throat. She made it to what looked like the main house before her strength gave out. Sliding from the saddle, her legs buckled beneath her and she fell into a snowdrift, the cold shocking even through her numbness. She tried to stand, but her body would not obey. The world tilted sideways. She heard a door open somewhere far away, heard a man's voice calling out, then everything went black. Warmth returned slowly, painfully. Jennifer became aware of heat against her skin, of blankets heavy on her body, of the crackling sound of a fire. She tried to open her eyes, but her eyelids felt weighted down. Her fingers tingled with the agony of returning circulation. "Easy now," a deep voice said near her ear. "You are safe. Do not try to move too quickly." Jennifer forced her eyes open and found herself staring at a ceiling made of rough-hewn timber. She turned her head slowly and saw a man kneeling beside the sofa where she lay. He had dark hair that fell past his collar, sharp features weathered by sun and wind, and eyes the color of a summer storm, gray-blue and intense. He looked to be perhaps 26 or 27, with strong hands that held a cup of something steaming. "Where?" Jennifer croaked, her voice rough as sandpaper. "My ranch," the man said. "The Double Q, about 15 miles south of the Montana border. I am Zachary Quinn. I found you collapsed in my front yard about 2 hours ago. You were nearly frozen solid." "My horse," Jennifer managed. "In the barn, warm and fed. She will be fine." Zachary held the cup to her lips. "Drink this, warm broth, small sips." The broth tasted like heaven, rich and salty and hot. Jennifer drank until Zachary pulled the cup away. "Not too much at once. You need to warm up gradually." He set the cup aside and pulled the blankets higher around her shoulders. "What in God's name were you doing out in a blizzard?" "Traveling," Jennifer said. "I did not know the storm was coming. Traveling alone." His voice held judgment she was too tired to resent. Yes. From where to where? Jennifer hesitated. Everything in her wanted to lie to protect herself, but this man had saved her life. She owed him something resembling truth. From Cheyenne, heading to Cimarron, New Mexico. I have family there. Zachary's eyebrows rose. That is a hell of a journey, especially in winter. Especially alone. I had my reasons. He studied her for a long moment, and Jennifer felt stripped bare under that steady gaze. Finally, he nodded. I will not press. But you are not going anywhere until this storm passes. The way the snow is falling, we could be looking at 3 or 4 days before the roads are passable. 3 or 4 days felt like a lifetime, and also not nearly long enough. Jennifer realized she was warm for the first time in days, that she was safe, and her body sagged with relief so profound it felt like grief. Thank you, she whispered. You saved my life. Anyone would have done the same, Zachary said, but his expression softened slightly. Rest now. I will check on you in a little while. He stood and walked away, and Jennifer watched him go, noting the confident way he moved, the breadth of his shoulders under his worn flannel shirt. Then exhaustion pulled her down into sleep like a stone sinking in deep water. When she woke again, the light had changed to the gray dimness of late afternoon. Jennifer sat up carefully, relieved to find that her body obeyed her this time. She was still on the sofa, still buried under what looked like half a dozen quilts. The room around her was simple but well kept, with solid furniture and shelves lined with books. The fire burned steadily in the stone fireplace, radiating blessed heat. Feeling better. Zachary's voice came from across the room. Jennifer looked over to find him sitting at a wooden table, working on what looked like leather tack with focused attention. Much better, thank you. Jennifer pushed her hair back from her face and realized someone, presumably Zachary, had removed her wet outer clothes and left her in her somewhat drier underthings with her modesty preserved by the quilts. Heat rushed to her cheeks. I had to get the wet things off you, Zachary said without looking up, as if he could read her thoughts. Frostbite risk. Your clothes are drying by the fire in the other room. You can have them back in the morning. I understand, thank you. Jennifer cleared her throat. Is this your home? Just you here. Just me and my foreman, Tom Brennan. He is in the bunkhouse with the other ranch hands. I sent him out earlier to let them know we have a guest and why. Zachary set down his work and met her eyes, so they do not get the wrong idea about a woman staying in the main house. I appreciate your concern for my reputation, Jennifer said, though she almost laughed at the absurdity. She had no reputation to protect anymore, not after fleeing alone into the wilderness. This is a good ranch with good men, Zachary said, but I know how talk spreads. When the storm clears, I will make sure you can continue your journey with your honor intact. Something about the formal way he spoke touched Jennifer. He was trying to protect her, this stranger he had pulled from the snow. You are very kind, she said quietly. Zachary shrugged and returned to his work. I am practical. Now, are you hungry? I have stew on the stove. Jennifer's stomach answered for her with a loud growl that made Zachary's lips twitch in what might have been amusement. He stood and disappeared into what must be the kitchen, returning with a bowl of thick stew and a chunk of bread. Jennifer accepted it gratefully and ate with more decorum than she felt, trying not to shovel the food into her mouth despite her ravenous hunger. How long have you been traveling? Zachary asked, settling back at the table with his own bowl. 3 days since I left Cheyenne, but I have been on my own for longer than that. Jennifer broke the bread and dipped it in the stew. My father died 2 weeks ago. I am sorry for your loss. Thank you. Jennifer did not elaborate on how complicated her feelings about her father were, how his death had been both a grief and a relief. The men he owed money to wanted payment from me. I chose to leave instead." Zachary's jaw tightened. "They wanted you to pay his debts, in a manner of speaking." Jennifer met his eyes steadily, refusing to look away from the understanding that dawned there. "I was not interested in their methods of payment." "Bastards," Zachary muttered. Then louder, "You did the right thing leaving." A woman should not be treated as property to settle a man's gambling debts. Not everyone would agree with you. Then not everyone is worth listening to. Zachary stood and carried his empty bowl to the kitchen. The world is changing, even if some men refuse to see it. Women should have the right to determine their own futures. Jennifer felt something warm bloom in her chest that had nothing to do with the fire or the stew. She had not expected such progressive views from a rancher in the Wyoming wilderness. "You sound like the suffragists I have read about in the papers." "Wyoming gave women the vote more than 10 years ago," Zachary said, returning to lean against the doorframe. "We were the first. I voted in favor of it when the measure came up. Seemed only fair, since women do as much work building this territory as men do." "Not all men feel that way." "No," Zachary agreed. "But the ones who do not are usually the same ones who need a woman's work while refusing to acknowledge her value. I have no patience for that kind of hypocrisy." Jennifer studied him openly now, this tall rancher with his storm-colored eyes and his surprising philosophy. "How did you come to own this ranch?" "Bought it 5 years ago with money I saved working cattle drives from Texas. This was open range back then, but I filed a claim and built it up from nothing. 300 head of cattle now, good grazing land, water rights to the creek that runs through the property." Pride colored his voice, earned pride from hard work. "It is a good life." "It sounds lonely," Jennifer said before she could stop herself. Zachary's expression shifted, something vulnerable flickering across his features before he shuddered it away. "Sometimes, but I prefer loneliness to bad company." "That is a fair point." They fell into comfortable silence, broken only by the crackling fire and the wind howling outside. Jennifer finished her stew and set the bowl aside, pulling the quilts tighter around herself. Despite the warmth of the room, she could still feel the phantom cold of the blizzard in her bones. "You should rest more," Zachary said. "Your body has been through an ordeal. I will wake you for supper." "I have already eaten." "That was barely lunch. You need to build your strength back up." He moved to the window and looked out at the wall of white beyond the glass. "Storm is getting worse. We will definitely be snowed in for a few days." A few days trapped in this house with this man who made her pulse quicken in a way that had nothing to do with fear. Jennifer told herself it was just gratitude, just the natural response to being saved. But she recognized the lie even as she thought it. There was something about Zachary Quinn that called to her, something in the steady way he looked at her, the quiet competence in his movements, the unexpected gentleness in his hands when he had held the cup to her lips. She was in danger here, but not the kind she had fled from in Cheyenne. This danger was to her heart, and Jennifer had no idea how to protect herself from it. The blizzard raged for 3 days, turning the world beyond the ranch house into a white void where sky and ground merged into one endless expanse of snow. Jennifer recovered her strength slowly, spending her days reading books from Zachary's surprisingly extensive library and watching him go about his work. He checked on the cattle twice a day despite the weather, coming back each time with snow caked on his coat and ice in his hair. He chopped firewood, repaired tack, and cooked simple but filling meals that he shared with Jennifer at the wooden table. They talked during those meals, carefully at first, then with increasing ease. Jennifer learned that Zachary had grown up in Missouri, the son of a farmer who lost everything to debt when Zachary was 16. He had gone west to make his fortune, spending years as a cowhand before finally saving enough to buy his own land. He had been alone most of his adult life, married briefly at 23 to a woman who left him after 6 months because she could not handle the isolation of ranch life. She wanted parties and social events, Zachary said on the second night, his voice matter of fact but his eyes distant. She thought marrying a rancher meant living in town with occasional visits to the ranch. When she realized this was my life here every day, she could not adapt, left me for a banker in Cheyenne. I am sorry, Jennifer said. That must have hurt. At the time, yes. Now I think we were both better off. Zachary poured more coffee into Jennifer's cup. She needed things I could not give her, and I needed a partner who wanted this life, not just the idea of it. Jennifer thought about that later, lying on the sofa in the dark with the fire burning low. She thought about partnership, about what it meant to choose a life with someone. Her own parents had been miserable together, her mother dying young and worn down by disappointment, her father drinking himself into an early grave. Jennifer had never seen a marriage that looked like partnership, only like chains. But watching Zachary these past days, she began to understand what it could be. The way he moved through his home with purpose and pride, the way he cared for his animals and his land, the way he treated Jennifer with respect and consideration, even though she was entirely at his mercy. He asked her opinion on things, listened when she spoke, never talked down to her or treated her as less than his equal. On the third day, Jennifer insisted on helping with the household chores despite Zachary's protests. She cooked breakfast while he was out checking the stock, and when he returned to find eggs and bacon and biscuits waiting, his face lit up with surprised pleasure that made her stomach flip. "You did not have to do this," he said, hanging his coat by the door. "I wanted to. I cannot just sit and be waited on forever." Jennifer poured coffee and handed him a cup. "Besides, I am a decent cook. My mother taught me before she died." Zachary accepted the cup and their fingers brushed, just for a moment. Jennifer felt the contact like electricity up her arm. His eyes met hers and held, and she saw awareness there, recognition of the tension that had been building between them since that first day. "Jennifer," he said, his voice rough, "I need to tell you something." "What is it?" He set the cup down carefully, not looking at her. "When you leave here, when the storm clears and you go on to New Mexico, I want you to know that you do not have to. Go, I mean." Jennifer's heart began to pound. "What are you saying?" "I am saying this ranch is big enough for two. I am saying I could use help running it. I am saying," he stopped, drew a breath, finally met her eyes again. "I am saying that in 3 days you have brought more life into this house than it has seen in 5 years. I am saying I would like you to stay." "Zachary." Jennifer's voice came out as barely a whisper. "I know it is too fast," he continued in a rush. "I know you barely know me, but I feel something when I look at you, something I have not felt since my wife left, maybe not even then, and I think maybe you feel it too." Jennifer did not trust her voice, so she nodded. Zachary's expression transformed, hope and vulnerability warring across his features. "Stay," he said again. "Not as a guest. Stay as my partner. Help me build this ranch into something lasting. I am not offering you charity or rescue. I am offering you a home, a life, a future, if you want it." "I have nothing," Jennifer said. "No dowry, no family wealth. My father's debts consumed everything. I do not care about money. I care about finding someone who can love this land the way I do, who can be happy here in the quiet with just the mountains and the cattle and me." Zachary took a step closer. "I care about finding someone I can talk to at the end of a long day, someone who reads books and asks questions and does not need constant entertainment to be content. Someone who is brave enough to ride into a blizzard rather than surrender her freedom." Tears stung Jennifer's eyes. "You do not know me well enough to say such things. I know enough. I know you are courageous and stubborn and proud. I know you would rather risk death than lose your autonomy. I know you make better biscuits than I do and that you read poetry when you think I am not looking." His voice dropped lower, more intimate. "I know that when I found you in the snow, something in me recognized you, claimed you. And these past 3 days have only confirmed what I felt in that first moment." "What did you feel?" Jennifer asked, needing to hear it. "That this is where you belong," Zachary said simply. "Here, with me, on this ranch in this life. Like you were meant to find your way here through that frozen path. Like fate or providence or whatever you want to call it brought you to my door specifically." Jennifer felt something break open inside her chest, some wall she had built around her heart cracking apart. She had spent so long protecting herself, expecting betrayal and disappointment, that she had forgotten what it felt like to be seen and valued for exactly who she was. "I feel it too," she admitted. "This pull toward you. I told myself it was just gratitude, but it is more than that. When you come back from checking the herd, I watch for you from the window. When you read in the evening, I memorize your profile in the firelight. I barely know you, and yet I feel like I have been waiting for you my entire life." Zachary closed the distance between them in 2 strides. His hands came up to cup her face, rough calluses gentle against her skin. "Then stay, say yes, build this life with me." "Yes," Jennifer breathed. "Yes, I will stay." He kissed her then, soft and careful at first, then deeper as she pressed closer to him. His arms came around her waist and she wrapped hers around his neck. And for the first time in her 22 years, Jennifer felt like she had come home. Not to a place but to a person, to this rancher with his storm-colored eyes and his surprising gentleness. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Zachary rested his forehead against hers. "I will do right by you," he promised. "We will do this properly. I will court you. We will get married in town with witnesses. Everything legal and respectable. I will not have anyone questioning your honor." "I do not care what people think," Jennifer said. "Maybe not, but I do. You deserve to be treated with respect, to be my wife in truth with all the legal protections that brings." Zachary stroked her hair back from her face. "Will you marry me, Jennifer Lambert? Will you be my partner in all things?" "I will," Jennifer said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. The storm finally broke on the 4th day, leaving behind a world transformed into crystalline beauty. Snow covered everything in pristine white, sparkling under brilliant blue sky. Zachary took Jennifer out to see the ranch properly, bundled in borrowed coats and boots. She met the cattle, shaggy and hardy, grazing on the hay Zachary had spread for them. She saw the bunkhouse where Tom Brennan and 3 other ranch hands lived, all of them polite and carefully respectful when Zachary introduced her as his intended. Tom, a weathered man in his 50s with kind eyes, took Jennifer aside while Zachary was showing her the hay barn. "He is a good man," Tom said bluntly. "Best boss I have ever worked for, fair and honest, but he has been alone too long. I am glad he found someone." "I am glad I found him too," Jennifer said, and realized she meant it completely. The terror and desperation that had driven her from Cheyenne seemed like a lifetime ago. This was her life now, this ranch and these mountains and this man who looked at her like she was precious. They rode into town 2 weeks later, after the roads cleared enough for the wagon. The nearest settlement was a small place called Silver Creek, just a handful of buildings clustered around a main street. Zachary introduced Jennifer to the general store owner, the blacksmith, the doctor, and the preacher, making it clear she was to be his wife. If anyone thought it strange that a woman had appeared out of nowhere and captured the eligible bachelor rancher's heart, they were polite enough not to say so. The preacher, A thin man named Reverend Walsh agreed to perform the ceremony the following Sunday. "I am happy to see you settling down, Zachary," he said, shaking Zachary's hand. "A man needs a wife, especially out here. The isolation can be hard." "It will not be hard anymore," Zachary said, his hand finding Jennifer's. "Not with her beside me." They spent the week preparing for the wedding. Jennifer used some of the money sewn into her coat lining to buy fabric from the general store, and she sewed herself a simple dress of deep blue wool that brought out the color of her eyes. Zachary bought her a ring, a plain gold band that fit perfectly on her finger. They worked side by side during the days, and in the evenings they sat close on the sofa, talking about their plans for the ranch, for their future. "I want to expand the herd," Zachary said one night, his arm around Jennifer's shoulders. "Maybe get some sheep too, diversify. And I have been thinking about irrigation, diverting part of the creek to water more pasture land." "What about chickens?" Jennifer asked. "And a vegetable garden. We could have fresh eggs and grow our own food come spring." "I like that idea. You could handle the chickens and the garden while I manage the cattle." Zachary pressed a kiss to her temple. "See, we are already thinking like partners." "I have another idea," Jennifer said, turning to face him. "What if we took in horses, really good horses breeding stock? The cavalry is always looking for strong mounts, and ranchers need working horses. We could develop a reputation for quality." Zachary's eyes lit up. "That is brilliant. There is good grazing here, plenty of space. We could start small, maybe buy a few good mares and a quality stallion." He pulled her closer, his voice warm with approval. "You have a head for this business. My mother grew up on a farm before she married my father. She taught me things before he drank away everything they had." Jennifer leaned into Zachary's embrace, feeling safe and valued in a way she never had before. "I want to build something that lasts, something that cannot be gambled away or lost to poor decisions." "We will build it together," Zachary promised. "Everything we do will be in both our names, legal and binding. This ranch will belong to both of us equally." Jennifer pulled back to look at him. "You would do that, give me equal ownership, of course. You are going to be my wife, my partner. Why would I not?" Zachary frowned slightly. "Did you think I would expect you to work without compensation or security? Most men would." "I am not most men." Zachary took her hand and kissed her knuckles. "I mean what I said about partnership. We succeed together or we fail together. Your voice matters as much as mine in all decisions." Jennifer kissed him then, pouring all her gratitude and growing love into the contact. Zachary responded with gentle passion, his hands cradling her face like she was something infinitely precious. When they finally broke apart, both breathing unsteadily, he rested his forehead against hers. "One more week," he murmured. "One more week and you will be Jennifer Quinn." "I can hardly wait," Jennifer whispered back, and she meant it. The wedding took place on a cold but clear Sunday morning in late January 1882. Jennifer wore her blue dress and carried a small bouquet of dried wildflowers that the general store owner's wife had saved from summer. Zachary wore his best suit, dark wool that made his eyes look like smoke. Tom Brennan served as his witness, and the doctor's wife, a motherly woman named Clara, stood up for Jennifer. The ceremony was simple and brief, but the words felt weighted with meaning when Jennifer and Zachary spoke their vows. She promised to love and honor him, to stand beside him through hardship and prosperity. He promised to cherish and protect her, to treat her as his equal and his beloved. When Reverend Walsh pronounced them husband and wife, Zachary kissed her with such tenderness that Jennifer felt tears prick her eyes. They held a small reception at the boarding house, the only place in town large enough to accommodate guests. The whole town seemed to turn out, curious about the mysterious woman who had won Zachary Quinn's heart. Jennifer fielded questions with polite vagueness, saying only that she had come from Cheyenne and been caught in the storm. If people suspected there was more to the story, they were kind enough not to press. "You look happy," Clara said, cornering Jennifer by the refreshment table. "Truly happy, not just putting on a show." "I am happy," Jennifer said, watching Zachary talk with Tom and some of the other ranchers across the room. "Happier than I ever thought I could be. Zachary is a good man, serious, maybe a bit too solitary for his own good, but good to his core." Clara patted Jennifer's hand. "I think you will be good for each other. He needs someone to share his life with, and you need a safe place to land. That is as good a foundation for a marriage as any." Jennifer thought about that as she and Zachary drove back to the ranch in the wagon, wrapped in blankets against the cold. Was safety enough? But no, it was not just safety she felt when she looked at Zachary. It was attraction, admiration, the beginnings of something deeper and more lasting. Love was growing between them like a seedling pushing up through spring soil, delicate but determined. That night, they consummated their marriage in Zachary's bed, now their bed, with firelight casting shadows on the walls and wind whistling softly outside. Zachary was gentle and patient, making sure Jennifer found pleasure before seeking his own. Afterwards, she lay in his arms feeling utterly claimed and completely safe, his heartbeat steady under her ear. "My wife," Zachary murmured, his lips against her hair. "My beautiful, brave wife." "My husband," Jennifer whispered back, testing the word. It felt right on her tongue, felt like a promise she wanted to keep. They fell asleep tangled together, and Jennifer dreamed of spring, of new life growing both in the land and in her heart. Winter slowly loosened its grip on the mountains. February brought occasional thaws that turned the snow to slush, followed by hard freezes that created treacherous ice. March arrived with wild temperature swings, warm days and bitter nights. Jennifer learned the rhythms of ranch life, rising before dawn to help Zachary with the feeding, cooking large breakfasts to fuel the work ahead, managing the household accounts and planning for spring planting. She discovered she had a natural affinity for the animals. The cattle grew comfortable with her presence, and when Zachary bought 3 laying hens from a neighboring ranch, they followed Jennifer around the yard like she was their mother. She built them a coop with her own hands, earning Zachary's admiration and a kiss that turned heated enough that they abandoned their work for an hour. "You are a wonder," Zachary told her afterward, both of them lying in their bed in the middle of the afternoon, sunlight streaming through the window. "I swear you can do anything you set your mind to." "I had good teachers," Jennifer said, "my mother before she died." And necessity is a powerful motivator. Still, not many women would have survived what you went through, much less thrived the way you are. Zachary traced patterns on her bare shoulder. "I am in awe of you, Jennifer Quinn." Hearing her married name still gave Jennifer a thrill. She was a different person now than the frightened girl who had fled Cheyenne. She was a rancher's wife, a partner in a growing enterprise, a woman building a future with her own hands. The weight of her father's failures no longer crushed her. She had left that burden behind in the snow. In April, they used Jennifer's remaining money and some of Zachary's savings to buy 4 mares and a young stallion from a horse breeder in Montana. The horses arrived in good condition, well-bred animals with strong lines and gentle temperaments. Jennifer took charge of them immediately, establishing herself as their primary handler. She had a gift for it, Zachary said, watching her work with the stallion, a magnificent bay they named Thunder. "He trusts you already," Zachary observed, leaning on the corral fence. "That is remarkable." He barely tolerated the breeder's touch. "I think animals sense intention," Jennifer said, running her hand down Thunder's neck. "He knows I want to help him, not dominate him." The mares settled in quickly, and by May they confirmed that 3 of them were already in foal, which meant new horses by early next spring. Jennifer kept meticulous records of their breeding lines and health, creating a system that would allow them to track bloodlines and plan future pairings. Zachary praised her organizational skills, relying on her increasingly to manage the business side of the ranch while he handled the physical labor. They were a good team, complementing each other's strengths. Where Zachary was cautious, Jennifer was bold. Where she was impulsive, he was steady. They argued sometimes, usually about money or expansion plans, but they always talked through their disagreements until they reached compromise. Jennifer had never imagined marriage could be like this, a true partnership where both voices mattered. In June, Jennifer realized she had missed her monthly courses twice in a row. She said nothing to Zachary at first, afraid to jinx it, but when she began feeling nauseous in the mornings, she could not hide it any longer. "You are pregnant," Zachary said the 3rd time he found her retching into a basin. It was not a question. "I think so," Jennifer admitted, wiping her mouth. "I am about 2 months along, best I can figure." Zachary's face transformed with joy so pure it made Jennifer's heart squeeze. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was made of glass. "A baby. We are going to have a baby. Are you happy?" Jennifer asked, even though the answer was obvious. Happy does not begin to cover it. Zachary pulled back to cup her face in his hands. "You have given me everything, Jennifer. A home that feels alive, a partnership that challenges me, and now a child. I am the luckiest man in Wyoming." "We do not know if the baby will be healthy," Jennifer warned, ever practical. "Many things can go wrong." "Then we will face them together, like we face everything." Zachary kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. "But I have faith. You are strong and healthy, and we will make sure you get the best care possible." They told Tom that evening over supper, and the foreman's weathered face creased into a genuine smile. "About damn time, this ranch had some young life on it. Congratulations to you both." The other ranch hands echoed his sentiments when they heard the news, and Jennifer felt embraced by this small community she had found. She was no longer alone in the world. She had a husband who loved her, employees who respected her, and a child growing inside her, proof of the life she and Zachary were building together. Summer brought long days of hard work. The cattle needed to be moved to higher pastures, the garden needed tending, and the horses required daily training and care. Jennifer worked through her morning sickness, refusing to let pregnancy slow her down. Zachary fretted, trying to convince her to rest more, but Jennifer was stubborn. "Women have been working through pregnancy since the beginning of time," she told him, hoeing weeds from the vegetable garden. "I am not made of porcelain." "I know, but you are carrying my child. Let me worry about you. You can worry all you want, but I am still going to do my share." Jennifer straightened, wiping sweat from her brow. The July sun beat down mercilessly, but the garden was thriving under her care. Tomatoes ripened on the vine, beans climbed their poles, and the potato plants were thick and green. "Besides, I like the work. It makes me feel useful." "You are more than useful. You are essential." Zachary took the hoe from her hands. "But take a break. It is too hot to be out here in the midday sun." Jennifer did not argue, following him back to the house where it was cooler. She had learned to pick her battles with Zachary, just as he had learned when to push and when to yield with her. Their marriage had settled into comfortable patterns, familiar rhythms that felt like home. In August, they rode into Silver Creek for supplies, and Jennifer saw a woman standing outside the general store who made her blood run cold. She was older, maybe 40, with an angular face and cold eyes. She looked at Jennifer with open curiosity that felt invasive. "Who is that?" Jennifer asked Zachary quietly. He followed her gaze and his expression hardened. "Margaret Harrison. She runs the boarding house, biggest gossip in 3 counties. He squeezed Jennifer's hand. "Ignore her, she cannot hurt you." But Margaret approached them anyway, her smile sharp as a knife. "Zachary Quinn. I heard you got married, quite suddenly if I recall correctly." "Mrs. Harrison," Zachary said coolly. "This is my wife, Jennifer." "How do you do?" Jennifer said, keeping her voice polite and neutral. "Interesting accent," Margaret observed. "You are not from around here, are you?" "Where did Zachary find you?" "I found him," Jennifer said before Zachary could respond. "Or rather, he found me in a blizzard and saved my life. Then he was gentleman enough to make an honest woman of me." Margaret's eyes narrowed. "How convenient." A mysterious woman appears out of nowhere and snaps up the most eligible bachelor in the territory. Some might say lucky. Others might say suspicious. Others might say it is none of their business, Zachary said, his voice hard. "Good day, Mrs. Harrison." He steered Jennifer away, but not before she saw the speculation in Margaret's eyes. The encounter left a sour taste in Jennifer's mouth, a reminder that she was not entirely safe from her past. If Margaret started asking questions, started digging into Jennifer's history, what might she uncover? "Do not let her get to you," Zachary said as they loaded supplies into the wagon. "She thrives on making people uncomfortable. It means nothing. What if she investigates me? What if she finds out about my father, about why I really left Cheyenne?" Zachary turned to face her fully, his hands on her shoulders. "Then we will deal with it together. Your father's debts are not your shame to carry. You did nothing wrong except have the misfortune of being born to an irresponsible man. Anyone who judges you for that is not worth your concern." Jennifer wanted to believe him, but fear had taken root in her chest. She had been so happy these past months, so content, that she had almost forgotten to be afraid. But danger could come from unexpected directions. Her past could reach out and destroy the future she was building. That night, unable to sleep, Jennifer confessed the full truth to Zachary. She told him about her father's gambling, about the extent of his debts, about the specific men who had come to collect and what they had wanted from her. She told him their names, thinking that maybe if the worst happened, if those men somehow tracked her down, Zachary would at least know who he was facing. "Clayton Burke and Seth Morrison," Zachary repeated slowly. "Those are the men who propositioned you. Burke wanted me to marry him. He said it was the only way to clear the debt. Morrison wanted." Jennifer could not finish, but she did not have to. Zachary's jaw was tight, fury radiating from him in waves. "If they ever come here, if they ever set foot on this ranch, I will kill them. I swear to God, Jennifer, I will put them in the ground. Do not say that. I do not want you risking yourself or your freedom for me. You are my wife. You are carrying my child. There is nothing I would not risk for you." Zachary pulled her close, his hand splayed protectively over her stomach, which was just beginning to show the slight swell of pregnancy. "You are safe here. I will make sure of it." Jennifer held on to him, wanting to believe, trying to trust. But she had learned the hard way that safety was an illusion, that everything could be torn away in an instant. All she could do was hope that her past stayed buried in Cheyenne, that the men she had fled from had moved on to other targets, other tragedies. Fall came to the mountains in a riot of color. The aspens turned gold, the scrub oak flamed red, and the air turned crisp with the promise of winter. Jennifer's belly grew round and heavy, and she finally had to stop helping with the more strenuous ranch work. She spent her days cooking, sewing tiny clothes for the baby, and managing the accounts. Zachary hired an additional ranch hand to help with the work she could no longer do, a young man named Luke, who was respectful and hardworking. In October, 3 of the cows gave birth to healthy calves, bringing the herd count to over 300 head. The horses had all survived their first summer on the ranch and were thriving. Tom reported that word was spreading about the double Cuticus quality stock, and they had received inquiries about buying horses once the mares foaled. "We are going to need to expand the barn," Zachary said at dinner one evening. "If we are serious about the horse breeding program, we need more stalls and a proper foaling area." "Do we have the money?" Jennifer asked, ever practical. "Barely, but yes, if we are careful." Zachary reached across the table to take her hand. "I want to have everything ready before the baby comes. A new barn, supplies laid in for winter, everything organized so you can focus on recovery and the child." "I will be fine," Jennifer assured him, though privately she was nervous. She had never birthed a child before, had no mother or sisters to guide her. Clara had promised to attend the birth, and there was a midwife in Silver Creek with a good reputation, but Jennifer could not help feeling anxious about what was to come. The baby moved constantly now, little flutters and kicks that fascinated Zachary. He would lie with his head on Jennifer's stomach in the evenings, talking to their unborn child, telling stories about the ranch and the mountains and the life they would share. It melted something in Jennifer's heart to see this strong, stoic man become so tender and soft when it came to their baby. "I hope it is a boy," Zachary said one night. "A son to inherit the ranch, to carry on what we are building." "What if it is a girl?" Jennifer asked, amused. "Then she will inherit the ranch," Zachary said firmly. "Boy or girl, this child will want for nothing. They will grow up knowing they are loved and valued, that their future is secure. They will never experience the instability you and I both knew as children." "You are going to be an amazing father," Jennifer whispered, emotion clogging her throat. "We are going to be amazing parents," Zachary corrected. "Together." November brought the first real snow, a reminder that winter was coming whether they were ready or not. Zachary and the hands worked frantically to finish the new barn before the ground froze completely. They made it with just days to spare, and the structure stood proud and sturdy, ready to house the expanded horse operation come spring. Jennifer woke on a cold morning in late November to find water soaking the bed. Her back had been aching for days, but she had attributed it to the weight of the baby. Now, feeling the first real contraction grip her body, she knew her time had come. "Zachary," she gasped, shaking him awake. "The baby is coming." He was up and moving before she finished speaking, pulling on clothes and boots. "I will get Clara and the midwife. Tom can ride for them. You stay here, stay calm, breathe through the pains." "I am not going anywhere," Jennifer said, trying for humor despite the fear coursing through her. Tom made record time to Silver Creek and back, returning with both Clara and the midwife, a competent woman named Sarah Winters. They took over Jennifer's care with brisk efficiency, banishing Zachary from the bedroom and preparing for the birth. Labor lasted 14 hours, 14 hours of pain that felt endless. Jennifer clung to Clara's hand and followed Sarah's instructions, bearing down when told, breathing when told, existing in a world narrowed to the overwhelming imperative to bring this child into the world. She heard Zachary pacing outside the door, heard him ask repeatedly if she was all right, heard Clara assure him that everything was progressing normally. Finally, as the sun set and cast the room in orange light, Jennifer gave one last tremendous push and felt the baby slide free. The relief was immediate and overwhelming. She collapsed back against the pillows, utterly spent, and heard the most beautiful sound in the world, her baby's first cry. "You have a son," Sarah announced, holding up a red-faced, squalling infant. "A big, healthy boy." Jennifer started crying, great heaving sobs of relief and joy. Clara helped her sit up as Sarah cleaned the baby and wrapped him in a blanket. Then the midwife placed the infant in Jennifer's arms, and she looked down into her son's face for the first time. He had dark hair like his father and gray-blue eyes that would probably darken or lighten with time. His tiny fists waved in the air and his mouth worked, seeking food. He was perfect, absolutely perfect, and Jennifer fell completely in love. "Can Zachary come in?" she asked, unable to look away from her son. "Of course," Clara said, moving to open the door. Zachary burst into the room like he had been held back by force. His eyes went straight to Jennifer, checking her over for injury, then dropped to the bundle in her arms. His expression transformed into something Jennifer had never seen before, awe and wonder and fierce protectiveness all mixed together. "A boy," Jennifer said, her voice thick with tears. "We have a son, Zachary." He came to the bedside and carefully, so carefully, touched the baby's tiny hand. The infant gripped his finger and Zachary made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "He is perfect. You are perfect, both of you." "Do you want to hold him?" Jennifer offered. Zachary nodded, unable to speak. Jennifer carefully transferred their son into his arms, and watching her strong rancher husband cradle their tiny baby with such exquisite gentleness made Jennifer's heart feel too big for her chest. "What should we name him?" Zachary asked, unable to tear his eyes from their son's face. Jennifer had been thinking about this for months. "I want to name him after someone important, someone who represents what we have built here." "What about James?" Zachary suggested. "It is a strong name, traditional." "James Quinn," Jennifer tested. "I like it." "James William Quinn, after your father." Zachary's eyes snapped to hers, surprise and emotion flooding his face. His father had died when Zachary was 16, lost to the same debt and despair that had claimed so much. "You would do that. Name our son after my father." "Your father gave you life and the values that made you who you are. That is worth honoring." Jennifer reached up to touch Zachary's face. "James William Quinn, our son." "James William Quinn," Zachary repeated, testing the name. "Yes, that is perfect." They spent the rest of the evening in quiet wonder, learning their son, memorizing his features. Clara and Sarah cleaned up and checked on Jennifer, pronouncing her recovery to be progressing well. They left instructions for care and feeding, then departed to let the new family bond in private. Tom poked his head in briefly to offer congratulations, his weathered face creasing into a smile when he saw the baby. "Good strong lungs on him. He will make a fine rancher someday." "Someday," Zachary agreed, "but not for many years yet. Let him be a child first." That night, with James sleeping in a cradle beside their bed and Jennifer propped up on pillows recovering, Zachary sat on the edge of the mattress and took her hand. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for everything. For surviving that blizzard and finding your way here. For taking a chance on me and this life. For giving me a son and making this house a home. You have given me more happiness in these 10 months than I thought possible." "You saved me," Jennifer replied simply. "In every way a person can be saved. You gave me a future when I had none. You loved me when I felt unlovable. You made me your partner when the world wanted to make me a victim." She squeezed his hand. "I am the one who should be thanking you." "Then we are even," Zachary said, leaning down to kiss her. "And we have the rest of our lives to keep thanking each other." The winter of 1882 was gentler than the one before, with less snow and milder temperatures. Jennifer recovered from childbirth with Clara's help, learning to feed and care for James with growing confidence. The baby thrived, growing plump and happy, rarely fussing except when hungry. Zachary was a doting father, taking James with him whenever possible, even fashioning a carrier so he could work while keeping the baby close. Spring came early, and with it came the foaling season. All 3 pregnant mares gave birth to healthy foals, 2 fillies and a colt, all with strong conformation and good temperaments. Jennifer began the process of gentling them immediately, getting them used to human touch from their first days. By summer, word had spread about the double Cuticus quality horses, and they sold the colt to a cavalry officer for a price that made even Zachary whistle in appreciation. "We need to breed more mares," Jennifer said, doing calculations in the account book. "If we can maintain this quality and produce 4 to 6 foals a year, the horses could become our primary income within 5 years. "What about the cattle?" Zachary asked, looking up from where he was playing with James on a blanket on the floor. The baby was 6 months old now, fat and happy and starting to roll over on his own. "Keep them for steady income and food, but focus our expansion efforts on horses. The market is only going to grow as more people move west." Jennifer tapped her pencil against the page. "We should also consider offering training services. I could work with difficult horses, help people who have animals with behavior problems." "You really have a gift for it," Zachary agreed. "I have never seen anyone work with horses the way you do. It is like you can read their minds." "I just pay attention to what they are telling me," Jennifer said. But she was pleased by his praise nonetheless. They implemented Jennifer's plan, buying 2 more quality mares and arranging breeding with Thunder. Jennifer took on her first training client in August, a rancher from Silver Creek, whose gelding had developed a fear of water. Within 3 weeks, she had the horse crossing streams without hesitation, and the rancher paid her handsomely and spread the word about her skills. By fall, Jennifer had more training requests than she could handle. She had to turn away business, promising to fit people in the following spring. The Double Q was developing a reputation for excellence, and the future looked bright. James celebrated his first birthday in November 1883 with a small party at the ranch. Clara and her husband attended, along with Tom and the ranch hands. Jennifer made a special cake, and James smashed his face into it with enthusiastic joy, making everyone laugh. Watching her son, happy and healthy and loved, Jennifer felt her heart overflow with gratitude. Later, after the guests had left and James was asleep, Jennifer and Zachary sat on the porch despite the cold, wrapped in blankets and watching the stars. "2 years ago today, you appeared out of a blizzard and changed my life forever," Zachary said. "Best thing that ever happened to me." "Best thing that ever happened to me too," Jennifer replied, leaning into his warmth. "I was so lost, so afraid, I thought my life was over. Instead, it was just beginning." "What do you think would have happened if you had made it to Cimarron?" Zachary asked. "If the storm had not forced you off course," Jennifer considered this. "I would have imposed on distant cousins who barely remembered I existed. Probably would have ended up working as a maid or a shop girl, scraping by, always looking over my shoulder. I would have survived, but I would not have lived. Not like this." "Then I am grateful for that blizzard," Zachary said. "Grateful for whatever force pushed you off course and brought you to my door. Fate, luck, providence, whatever it was, I am thankful." "Me too," Jennifer whispered. "Me too." The years passed in a rhythm of seasons and steady growth. James grew from baby to toddler to young boy, learning to ride before he could read, as comfortable in the saddle as on his own feet. The horse breeding program flourished beyond Jennifer's wildest projections, with buyers coming from as far as Colorado and Montana to purchase Double Q horses. The ranch expanded, buying up adjacent land as it became available, until they had nearly 1,000 acres under their control. In 1885, Jennifer gave birth to their second child, a daughter they named Emily Rose Quinn. She had Jennifer's dark hair and Zachary's storm-colored eyes, and she wrapped her father around her tiny finger from the moment she was born. Zachary, who had grown up without sisters, was bemused and enchanted by his little girl, treating her like she was made of spun glass. "You are going to spoil her," Jennifer warned, watching Zachary rock Emily while James played with wooden horses at their feet. "She deserves to be spoiled," Zachary countered. "Both our children do. We can afford it now, and they will never experience the poverty and fear we knew." It was true. The Double Q was now one of the most prosperous ranches in the territory, with a bank account that would have seemed impossible just 5 years earlier. They had hired more hands, built a larger bunkhouse, and Jennifer's training services were booked solid for 2 years in advance. They had achieved everything they dreamed of and more, but success brought its own challenges. In the summer of 1886, a man arrived at the ranch asking for Jennifer by her maiden name. Tom came to get her from the barn, his expression troubled. "Man here to see you, Mrs. Quinn. Says his name is Seth Morrison." Jennifer's blood turned to ice. The name was one she had hoped never to hear again, one of the men from Cheyenne, one of her father's creditors. "Tell him I am not available. He says it is urgent. Says he has information you need to hear." Tom's hand rested on his gun belt. "Want me to run him off?" Jennifer's mind raced. If Morrison had tracked her down after all these years, running him off would not make him go away. Better to face him, find out what he wanted, deal with it directly. "No, tell him I will meet with him. But stay close." She found Zachary working with the cattle and quickly explained the situation. His face darkened with fury. "I am coming with you. No, he is here for me. Let me handle this." Jennifer touched his arm. "Please, I need to do this myself." Zachary wanted to argue. She could see it in his eyes, but he finally nodded. "I will be nearby. If he threatens you in any way, I am intervening." Jennifer walked back to the house to find Seth Morrison waiting on the porch. He had aged badly in the 5 years since she had last seen him, his face more lined, his body thicker around the middle. He looked her over with the same appraising expression she remembered, and it made her skin crawl. "Miss Lambert," he said, "though I hear it is Mrs. Quinn now." "What do you want, Mr. Morrison?" Jennifer asked coldly, staying several feet away. "I want what I am owed. Your father died with debts unpaid, and as his sole heir, you are responsible for them." "I am responsible for nothing. I was not party to my father's gambling. The law says different. You inherited his estate, such as it was. That includes his debts." Morrison pulled a paper from his pocket. "I have a court order here from Cheyenne. You owe me $3,000. Jennifer's stomach dropped. $3,000 was a fortune, more than most people saw in a lifetime. But it was also money the ranch could technically afford, if barely. Even if that is true, I have no proof the debt is legitimate. My father kept poor records. I have markers with his signature. I have witnesses to his losses. This is all legal and binding, Mrs. Quinn." Morrison smiled, showing tobacco-stained teeth. "Of course, if you cannot pay in cash, we could work out other arrangements. You have a nice ranch here. I could become a partner, help you manage things." There it was, the real reason he had come. Not for money, but for power, for ownership of what she and Zachary had built. "Get off my property," Jennifer said quietly. "I have a legal claim." "I said get off my property." Jennifer's hand moved to the pistol at her belt, a weapon she had learned to shoot and carry in the years since arriving in Wyoming. "This is your only warning." Morrison's eyes narrowed. "You are making a mistake. I will take this to court, tie up your assets, make your life hell. You cannot run from your father's debts forever." "I am not running. I am telling you to leave." Jennifer drew the pistol, not pointing it at Morrison but making her intention clear. "Now." Morrison backed toward his horse, his face ugly with anger. "This is not over." You will be hearing from my lawyer." He mounted and rode off, leaving Jennifer shaking with fury and fear. Zachary appeared from around the side of the house where he had been listening, his expression murderous. "That son of a bitch," he said, "trying to extort you with fake debts." "They might not be fake," Jennifer said. "My father was capable of losing $3,000 to gambling. Hell, he probably lost more than that over the years. Even so, you are not responsible. You did not inherit anything from him except misery." Zachary pulled her into his arms. "We will fight this. We will hire the best lawyer in the territory and fight every claim he makes." They did exactly that. For the next year, Jennifer was embroiled in legal proceedings, fighting Morrison's claims in court. The lawyer they hired was expensive but thorough, pulling apart Morrison's case piece by piece. Many of the markers he presented had questionable signatures. His witnesses contradicted each other. The court order from Cheyenne turned out to be improperly executed. In the end, the judge ruled in Jennifer's favor, declaring that she was not responsible for her father's gambling debts and that Morrison's claim was without merit. Morrison was ordered to pay court costs and leave Jennifer alone. It was a complete victory, but the stress of it had taken its toll. Jennifer had barely slept for months, constantly worrying about losing everything they had built. The night after the judgment came down, Jennifer and Zachary celebrated quietly at home. The children were asleep, and they sat together on the porch as they had so many times before, watching the stars wheel overhead. "It is really over," Jennifer said, still not quite believing it. "He cannot come after me again." "It is over," Zachary confirmed. "You are free of your father's shadow once and for all." Jennifer felt something release in her chest, some tension she had carried for years finally letting go. She was free, truly free. Her past could not reach out and destroy her future anymore. She had won. The Double Q continued to prosper throughout the late 1880s. In 1888, Jennifer gave birth to their third child, another son they named Thomas Henry Quinn, after Tom Brennan, who had become like family to them. The old foreman cried when they told him, unashamed of his emotion. James, now 7, took his role as big brother seriously, helping Jennifer with both Emily and baby Thomas. Emily, at 3, was a whirlwind of energy and mischief, keeping everyone on their toes. The ranch house rang with children's laughter, a sound that never failed to make both Jennifer and Zachary smile. By 1890, nearly a decade after Jennifer had stumbled out of that blizzard, the Double Q was known throughout the territory. Their horses were prized, their cattle were premium stock, and Jennifer's training methods had been written about in ranching journals. They employed 15 hands year-round, more during busy seasons, and were respected as fair and generous employers. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Zachary surprised Jennifer with a gift, a beautiful mare with an impeccable bloodline, purchased from a breeder in Kentucky at enormous expense. "For you," he said, presenting Jennifer with the mare's lead rope, "because you have made all of this possible. This ranch, our family, our success, none of it would exist without you." Jennifer ran her hand down the mare's sleek neck, overwhelmed by the gesture. "Zachary, she must have cost a fortune." "She did, and you are worth every penny." Zachary came to stand beside her, his arm around her waist. 10 years ago, I thought I would live and die alone on this ranch. I had resigned myself to it. Then you appeared out of the snow like a miracle, and everything changed. You gave me a family, a true partner, a reason to build something that will outlast us both." Jennifer turned to face him, tears in her eyes. "You gave me the same. You gave me a home when I had nowhere to go. You gave me respect when the world wanted to make me a victim. You loved me when I thought I was unlovable. Everything good in my life started the day you found me in that blizzard." They kissed there in the barn, surrounded by the fruits of their labor, 10 years of partnership and love made manifest in land and animals and thriving business. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. "Think we will make it another 10 years?" Zachary asked, only half joking. "I think we will make it 50 more," Jennifer replied. "At least." The years continued to pass in a steady stream of seasons and growth. Their children grew tall and strong, learning the land and the business from the ground up. James showed a natural aptitude for managing cattle, while Emily had inherited her mother's gift with horses. Thomas, the youngest, had a head for numbers and business that promised future success as the ranch's manager. In 1895, Tom Brennan retired, though he stayed on the ranch in a small cabin they built for him specifically. He had become like a grandfather to the children, telling them stories of the early days when the double Q was just starting, when their mother had arrived half frozen and their father had fallen in love at first sight. "Is that true?" Emily asked one evening, sitting at Tom's feet while he whittled by the fire. "Did Papa really fall in love with Mama the moment he saw her?" "I believe he did," Tom said. "I was not there for that part, but I saw him the next day and he was different. Lighter somehow, like he had found something he did not even know he was looking for." "What about Mama?" James asked. "When did she fall in love?" "You would have to ask her that," Tom said, "but I think it was pretty quick. They just fit together from the start like two pieces of a puzzle." Jennifer, listening from the doorway where Tom could not see her, smiled. It was true. She had fallen fast and hard for Zachary Quinn, this serious rancher with his storm-colored eyes and his unexpected gentleness. She had known within days that she wanted to spend her life with him, and that feeling had only grown stronger with time. By 1900, as the new century dawned, the Double Q had grown into one of the largest and most successful ranches in Wyoming. They had over 1,500 acres, 300 head of cattle, and a horse breeding program that was known nationally. Jennifer's training services had waiting lists years long, and Zachary had been approached multiple times about selling the ranch for astronomical sums. They always refused. This was not just a business to them. It was their legacy, their children's inheritance, the physical manifestation of their partnership and love. On a warm evening in June 1901, the entire family gathered for a celebration. James, now 19, had just been accepted to study agricultural science at the university in Laramie. Emily, 15, had won a prestigious horse show with a mare she had trained herself. Thomas, 12, had successfully negotiated their largest cattle sale to date, showing business acumen beyond his years. Jennifer and Zachary sat on the porch watching their children laugh and talk with Tom and the ranch hands, and Jennifer felt a contentment so profound, it was almost painful. "We did it," she said quietly. "We built something that will last." "We did," Zachary agreed. His hair was more gray than dark now, his face more lined, but his eyes were the same storm-colored gray-blue that had captured Jennifer's heart 20 years ago. "And it all started because you got lost in a blizzard." "I was not lost," Jennifer corrected. "I was found. That frozen path led me exactly where I needed to be. To my ranch, to you," Jennifer said. "The ranch was just a bonus." Zachary laughed and pulled her close, his arm around her shoulders in a gesture that had become as natural as breathing over the decades. "I said it back then, and I will say it again now. This is where you belong, Jennifer Quinn. Here with me, with our family on this land we built together." "I know," Jennifer said, leaning into his warmth. "I have known it from the beginning. This is home. You are home. You always have been." They sat in comfortable silence as the evening deepened into night, watching the stars emerge one by one above the mountains. The same mountains that had nearly killed Jennifer 20 years ago, that had tested her and ultimately delivered her to salvation. She would never forget that journey, that desperate flight through the frozen wilderness, because it had led her to everything she now held dear. Behind them, the ranch house glowed with lamplight, filled with the sound of children's voices and laughter. Before them, the land stretched out in darkening shadows, every acre familiar, every fence line known by heart. This was their kingdom, built from nothing but determination and partnership and love. And it had all started with a blizzard, a frozen path, and a cowboy who looked at a half-dead stranger and saw his future. 25 years after that fateful day, Jennifer Lambert Quinn stood in the same spot where she had first collapsed in the snow, now marked by a small garden where she grew flowers every summer. She was 47 now, a grandmother as of 2 months ago thanks to James and his new wife. Her hair had threads of silver, her hands were weathered from decades of work, but her eyes still held the fierce light that had driven her to flee Cheyenne all those years ago. Zachary came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Thinking about that day, always do when I am here," Jennifer said. "Thinking about how close I came to dying, how different everything would have been if you had not been here. But I was here, and you found me or I found you, does it matter which?" Zachary pressed a kiss to her temple. "What matters is that we found each other, and we built this life together." "Best life I could have imagined," Jennifer said, turning in his arms to face him. "Better than I ever dreamed possible when I was that frightened girl running from her father's mistakes." "You were never just a frightened girl. You were the bravest person I ever met, choosing the unknown over surrender." Zachary cupped her face in his work-roughened hands. "You still are. Every day I am grateful that frozen path led you to my ranch, that I got to be the one to say this is where you belong." "And you were right," Jennifer whispered. "This is exactly where I belong." They kissed there in the flower garden, the same spot where Jennifer's desperate journey had ended and her real life had begun, surrounded by the physical proof of 25 years of partnership and love. 3 children, a thriving ranch, a legacy that would continue long after they were gone. All of it possible because a blizzard had raged at just the right time, because a woman had been brave enough to flee into the unknown, because a man had been kind enough to see potential instead of burden when he found her collapsed in his yard. The ranch would continue to grow and prosper, passing eventually to their children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, each generation adding their own contributions while honoring the foundation Jennifer and Zachary had built. The story of how it all began, of the frozen path and the blizzard and the instant recognition of souls finding their match, would be told and retold until it became family legend. But for now, in this moment, it was just the two of them in the fading light, 2 people who had found each other against all odds and built something beautiful from that meeting. The mountains rose around them, eternal and unchanging, witness to their love story and silent guardian of their dreams. Jennifer looked at her husband, still seeing the man who had pulled her from the snow, who had offered her not just shelter but partnership, who had loved her when she was at her lowest and continued loving her as she blossomed into her full potential. She saw the gray in his hair and the lines on his face and loved him more for each one because they represented years lived together, challenges overcome together, joy shared together. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for everything. For saving me, for loving me, for building this life with me. For seeing who I could be when I could barely see it myself." "Thank you for staying," Zachary replied. "For choosing me and this ranch and this life when you could have continued on to Cimarron. For making this house a home and giving me a family. For being the partner I always needed but never thought I would find." The sun sank below the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple and deep blue. Stars began to emerge, the same stars that had watched over Jennifer's desperate flight through the blizzard so many years ago. But she was not that desperate, frightened girl anymore. She was a woman who had built an empire from nothing, who had raised children and trained horses and made her mark on this wild land. She was Jennifer Lambert Quinn, rancher, businesswoman, wife, mother, grandmother. And she was exactly where she belonged. As full darkness fell, and they walked hand in hand back to the house, filled with light and family, Jennifer sent up a silent prayer of gratitude to whatever force had pushed her off course that winter day in 1881. To the blizzard that had nearly killed her, but instead delivered her to salvation. To fate or luck or providence that had brought her to Zachary Quinn's door at the exact moment when both of them needed each other most. She was home. She had been home from the moment Zachary pulled her from the snow and said those words that would define the rest of her life. "This is where you belong." He had been right then, and he was still right now, and he would be right for all the years to come. This was where she belonged. This ranch, this man, this life they had built together. Everything she had endured, every hardship she had faced, every fear she had overcome, it had all been worth it to arrive here in this place with this person. The frozen path had led her home, and home was exactly where she wanted to be.